Who has not been to an E-Club meeting before? All right. We got some new people. It's a little bit unfortunate timing. We got the break coming up, so a couple of people couldn't be here. But we got a video recording going in the back, so you'll be able to watch it later and have your friends catch up on it. So this is our last speaker of the year. We will have a party get together next week. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a couple seconds. So just kind of kick off. Some of you heard about our Global Entrepreneurship Week event last week, where we set up a map and asked people from across the globe what they thought entrepreneurship meant to them, and we got responses from all 6 livable continents and over 30 different countries. It was pretty cool. We had this really big map set up in Centennial Commons. It was a pretty fun event. So we'll start off with some announcements, and Max Kill is going to make our announcement for EGG.
Oh, thank you, Nick Pika. Thank you. Hi guys, my name is Max Kilb, and I'm the Director of Engineers for the Greater Good, or EGG. So EGG is a startup weekend for engineering students and business students. And during this weekend, you'll develop a physical product and a business model that has a positive social impact. So what that means is you're going to look to actually build something tangible that improves the quality of life for someone. So some of the highlights of the weekend: there's tons of free food. You guys will be working hard, so we'll make sure you're taken care of. There's going to be 3D printing, rapid prototyping available overnight. There's also going to be some great mentors there to help you out with your designs as you go along. And the winners will receive $2,500 to further their prototypes. So there's a great opportunity there. And most importantly, it's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope to see all of you there. Thanks.
All right, thanks so much, Max. Applications are due November 28th, so please apply as soon as you can. And there's a lot of egg puns that go on during that weekend. So as Max said, it is a lot of fun. Our next announcement is going to be of NU Builds. Diana will make that announcement. Here she comes. Clap.
Okay, so Build has their final workshop for the semester coming up, and what we're doing is we're working on Idea Storm. It's teaching the kids how to better their product based on the business environment. So we're doing that on the 6th, which is reading day, so no one has classes, so you're all available. And we just have one training session. That's next Monday from 6 to 7. It might be a little bit shorter. But if you guys are interested, definitely shoot me an email.
All right, thank you. And these workshops are a lot of fun. You get to interact with these kids, and they really look up to us. Here's some photos of Build workshops in the past. So get in contact with Diana if you're interested. Investor Insights. Chris Wolfel, the CEO of IDEA, is going to make an announcement about this.
How's it going, guys? Thank you, Matt. For any of you, has anyone been to an Investor Insights event that we've held before? About 3 of you. 4. Okay, so Investor Insights is an event we put on twice a year where we bring in 2 angel investors and 2 venture capitalists to come in and answer whatever questions you guys have. They've agreed to answer anything that they legally can for you guys, so it's a great opportunity to get there. We have Glenn Champagne, who is an angel investor out of Launchpad. We have a investor from General Catalyst, Bilal Zubiri, Jim Moran from Northbridge Venture Partners, and then also Mike Dries, who is the CEO of Newberry Comics, but also the co-founder and one of 2 partners of Wicked Good Angels. So come out, check them out. The event will be from 6:30 to 8. It's over in the Alumni Center. We can only fit about 135 people in the room. 70 tickets are already sold. It is free, but you do need to register, so go out and check that out. Also, we are accepting applications for Ideas management team for the spring. If you're not going to be in the management team here at E-Club, feel free to reach out to us. I'll be here after, and there's also more on our website.
All right, thanks so much, Chris. And I've been to these events in the past. They're very, very valuable, especially to see the other side of the table, the way that the investors think. And we had the CEO of Newberry Comics, Mike Dries, come in to speak last year to our club. Who here was there for that meeting? He was one of the most interesting speakers we've had, and he had the coolest arm cuffs on his shirt ever. It was very interesting. What are they called? French cuffs. There we go. So HSC Demo Day. James McNamara is going to make an announcement about that.
Hello, everybody. So this semester we had almost 100 participants representing over 60 companies take part in the Husky Startup Challenge, which is a business planning and prototyping competition that runs all semester and gives all the students and participants access to some industry experts and some student coaches who help them give them hands-on practice with business planning development and marketing tips, prototyping, and everything they need to build up their business. Some of these students have built some really impressive prototypes and websites that are already functional and live, and they're all gearing up for Demo Day. So Demo Day is their chance to pitch their idea and show their prototype to all the student body, members of the community, potential investors, as well as hidden judges throughout the crowd who will rate their companies based on viability and pitch, and at the end of the night be giving away almost or over $5,000 in prize money to help them start up their companies. So definitely make sure you come out. It's going to be in the Curry Ballroom right over there, 6 to 8 on December 5th. There's going to be some free food, and you can meet the next Paul English. So we'll see you there.
All right, thanks, James. And if for nothing else but the food and networking, there's a lot of really cool people that are at this event, so it's definitely worth coming to check out. So our last announcement is of my book crate, and I believe Elliot is going to make that announcement.
What's up, guys? Whoa. Okay. So listen up, because I got some free shirts to give away. But we're partnering up with My Book Crate, and it's like a textbook service. So pretty much, you guys spend a lot of money on textbooks. Up to $1,000. That's messed up. You can go to the buyback books or the trucks. They average about $9 a book. You guys can get actual money. This company is awesome. It's started by a BU student. It's helping students out because you just list what books you have, what books you need. It'll match you up with someone on campus, and boom, you get full market value. If everybody on campus here sold one book using this, we would all save ourselves $500,000. So you can register on mybookcrate.com, and just real quick for these shirts, where are you going to register? Shout it out. Cool. And if everyone here sold one book, how much money will we save? Sounds good. Great. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you, Elliot. And then we will have Member of the Week. So we'll actually have a Member of the Week next week, too. So this isn't our last Member of the Week, but Elliot's going to announce that as well.
Yeah, that's me, too. So I'm here to highlight a member that's been absolutely killing it this semester. She's super involved. She's been doing I Made It. She's a Marine. And she's been doing EIP, so I'd like to welcome up Ann Chen. There's she. Awesome. There she is.
And for those of you who haven't been here before, Member of the Week gets to wear our nice E-Club cape for the rest of the meeting. And she gets a $10 gift certificate to Crazy Dough's Pizza, the pizza that you guys eat every single week. It's good, though. We get very good pizza. It was better than Papa John's. I don't know if I can say that. All right, thanks, guys. So, as I said before, this is our last speaker of the year, and Paul's here, and we want to be respectful of his time. So we're going to have no EPOD activity this week, but we will have a big end-of-the-year send-off activity next week where we'll involve the e-money and all that. And then I think we're going to try to get some cake. So, and not maybe a dog. We'll try to get a dog. Maybe. A husky. If anyone knows a husky, let me know. Give me his phone number. Cool. All right. So with that, I'd like to turn the mic over to Paul English, who is not only, I know we've been marketing this as Kayak, but he's involved in a bunch of other things, including Village HealthWorks and Partners in Health. He's been on the advisory board of LinkedIn in the past, as well as many other startups. And who here heard the news or saw the links about Kayak's big announcement? Okay, who here hasn't? All right, well, I saw a couple hands. For those of you that haven't, Priceline.com is purchasing Kayak.com for $1.8 billion, I believe $500 million in cash. So I'm sure it's a very exciting time for Paul. And with that, we'll hand it over.
All right, thanks a lot. So thanks, guys. It's good to be here. It's amazing that I've never been to an event at Northeastern before because I went to high school at Boston Latin, kind of across the street, and grew up in Boston. I'm probably have done events at universities maybe every month or so for the last 8 years. So it's kind of bad that I've never been over here, but it's good to be here. I will say the campus here is awesome compared to the last time I was here, which is a long, long time ago. How many people here are actually from the Boston area in terms of like grew up around here? Wow, okay, cool. Not that many. And how many people here are computer science majors? Wow, small number. Okay, cool. It's also probably bad that we have not yet participated in the co-op program, and I'm definitely interested in doing that, especially for the computer science students, but also in general. We'll try to learn a lot more about the program and see how we can get involved. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Kayak, not so much on the tech side, but I'll talk a little bit about the culture of a startup and kind of what has worked well for us, and then really open it up for questions. So we were founded in 2004. We're almost 9 years old now. We have about 180 employees. Our tech team is based here in Concord, out on Route 2, about 100 people here. I just announced to my team last week that we might be moving the team back into the city. So maybe next year we'll be in Kendall Square or something. And then our headquarters are actually in Norwalk. We do our sales and marketing, finance, biz dev. And then we have 2 teams in Europe. In Zurich is our international sales team. And then we have a development center in Kaunas in Lithuania. One of the, as far as business stats, the stat that I like the most in terms of indicating how we're doing as a company is the revenue per employee. I like that number. It's about $1.5 million right now, because I think it's a really good indication that we run as a very lean, efficient company, and we're really focused on making things happen really quickly. And for those of you, so I'm assuming just about everyone in the room here has already been out on co-ops. Is that right? Who has not been out on a co-op yet? All right, cool. So I'm hoping that you guys all have good experience with the companies you visit, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what our environment is like. On the revenue per employee, this is actually higher than Google, higher than Facebook, higher than Expedia. It's a pretty good number. It I think speaks to our model, but also the way the team works together. So when I started Kayak is the 4th or 5th company I've started based on how you count. There's one I'm trying to forget where I lost a lot of money many years ago. But when I think about what I do at Kayak every day, and we started it, there's 3 things that I focus on. One is trying to make an environment where the people who work at Kayak, I want to make sure that 20 years down the road when they look back, that they believe that Kayak is the best job they ever had. It's really, really important to me that people have fun at work. And I focus on that in terms of how I do recruiting, how we do hiring. It actually relates to how we do firing. A lot of companies, you probably heard, have the no assholes rule. Unfortunately, they don't all enforce it. It's a little bit harsh, but we have a no neutrals rule at Kayak, which means that we really want everyone on the team to be very interactive and, very engaging and fast in how they just help push things along and really try to contribute to the fun in the environment. We also, when we set up the company, we want to make sure we create the best products. So we work in the travel industry. We want to make sure that we create the best web products and mobile products. And then the last thing is just be really, really efficient in everything we do. We have nice offices. This is our office in Concord. We've won some awards for it. We put a lot of energy into making it a really cool space. We have a nice sound system, good food, all that stuff. In terms of what we offer our customers, so the big thing when we started Kayak, we were known as a search engine. You weren't able to actually purchase travel on Kayak. We would search the other sites for you. And the main thing that we would focus on for our customers really from day one was we wanted to make sure the site was faster than any other travel website, and also, probably even more important, faster if you look at your purchase process from beginning to end in terms of how long it takes you to research, how many sites you need to get to. The second one is making sure that we have the best results. So if you're looking for a hotel in New York, make sure that not only will I show you every hotel in New York, but I'll show you one that's really, really related to your budget or your style, how you want to stay. And then the third one is just making sure the products are known for simplicity and ease of use. It occurred to me, I've had a slide like this, or I've talked about these values, commitment to our customers many times since we started Kayak. Probably after we were a couple years old, it occurred to me one day that these tenets that we try to hold ourselves to in terms of our relationship with the customers are also things that we hold each other accountable as entrepreneurs. And so I do think of everyone at Kayak, we're about 180 people right now, I do think of all of them as entrepreneurs. And our commitment to each other is also focused on these 3 things. We want to make sure that we're fast in terms of, you know how sometimes you see someone approach you in the hall at school or at work, and you see them walking towards you, and all of a sudden you're like, shit, I'm about to lose 5 minutes of my life. We want to make sure we don't have engagements like that. So people should be, it's not that you don't want to sometimes hang out with someone for 4 hours and drink beers or whatever, but you want to make sure that, you're efficient, get to the point. You want to make sure that you are relevant in terms of the answers you give or how you contribute to a team. Hopefully you're net positive. And then the whole ease of use thing. We want to make sure that you're someone that is fun and people enjoy working with. And I would say that these things are actually more important than the particular business model or technology. It's really forming that team where people love working together, extremely strong team. And I think by focusing on that, you can then create good products. I often have said that my priorities at Kayak are team number 1, customers number 2, and then business metrics number 3. On the customer thing, even though I say customers number 2, which sounds like an odd thing to say, we're pretty maniacal about how we engage customers in the design process. I think there are 8 or 9 processes that customers get involved in how we design and refine our products. We don't let our customers design our products. If they're good designers, we'd hire them. We don't let them product manage in terms of prioritizing. Like, we don't take votes, should we do this feature or that feature. I think it's actually really lame when companies do that, because to me it indicates that they themselves don't have a strong view of the market and they have to ask their customers to help define them. But we do have them really involved in looking at products early. We try to go from concept to customer in days, not weeks. So if I'll come in with a new product idea or someone else, we'll get in a meeting room with maybe 3 people. I like having meetings as small as possible. Do some whiteboard, fight about it a little bit. At the end of the meeting, which might be 15, 20 minutes long, I'll take a picture with my iPhone, email it out to the people who are in the meeting. Then someone will crank out Photoshop mocks for a day or less than a day, and then we'll develop a prototype and try to get that in front of a customer. I think that level of engagement where customers are validating our ideas quickly is really, really important. One of the things that has been written about Kayak culture, which is a little bit unusual, is we have millions of customers coming to our site every day. I think this month we will serve over 100 million searches for travel, where people are actually looking to buy, flights or hotels or rent-a-cars or packages. And we don't have any product support people, which sounds really bizarre. Friends of mine that have started other companies don't believe me that I can do this, but any question we get about the product is actually answered by me or one of the programmers. And you might think that doesn't scale, because there's 100 people in Concord. How can you have 100 people who are writing code but also supporting millions of customers? And the interesting thing about this is I would say it's a bit of a tautology that if you create products or product companies and you require the designers support the customers, each time we screw up as engineers and create something that's confusing, you get buried in calls. You can't then develop new code because you don't have any time because you're answering so many calls, and you focus your time on fixing the bugs so you don't get any more questions. So we actually have these, in one of the 8 or 9 ways customers engage with us is we have these really loud mechanical ringer phones in the office. Like this one is on my desk. And when customers call, we answer, and it's loud. And we don't have any offices, so it's just sitting out in the open so you can hear each other talking to customers. And it's been really valuable in terms of just connecting us to what's actually going on. I talked about efficiency. When you go into a bar or a sporting event or a club, and the bouncer has a clicker, and they'll count how many people go into the bar. So this is a photo I took of our main meeting room in Concord. And I don't actually use this to count how many people go to our meetings, but it's just a reminder that we really, really want small meetings. We really want things to happen fast. Every time I've been in a company and there's a meeting of 10 people, there's at least 2 or 3 people who are checking their email. I'm sure that's going on in this room right now. And there are people who are bored and don't want to be in the meeting. And to me, that's kind of a crime as an entrepreneur. When I see people who are bored and don't want to be there, I feel like I'm robbing them of time, and I'm not meeting my commitment of making this a fun place. And worse than that, the more people you have in a meeting is the more people who can say no to a new idea and to innovation. And for innovation, I really believe you want hire really good entrepreneurs, have a really small set, let them try stuff and get it out in customers as quickly as you can. So having small design teams, to me, is a way to get to that speed. This is a funny thing we did recently. We run the company pretty transparently. We don't have much management layers. There's an org chart and there's a couple of managers, but in general, things run really flat. We definitely encourage a little bit of anarchy in that anyone should be able to make decisions. So the developers, if they don't like what I'm doing for product strategy or product design, sometimes they'll actually do something different, release code that surprises me. And a lot of companies are top-down run, and we are very strong in terms of this is our strategy we articulate, but we give a lot of freedom to people in terms of deciding what they work on each day. It's important to me from an efficiency standpoint that there's no hidden agendas. If you go to a meeting and one person doesn't like someone else, or you're mad about how they did a particular product release or how they did a particular deal, you will have this angst and you won't fully engage with them. So as part of running a transparent company, kind of as a joke, we have this one room, we call it the elephant room. This is Annabelle. And the idea is if you're having a disagreement with someone, we say go, talk about the elephant in the room. And this is not literally the room where we go to duke it out when we have fights, but it's just we have these little signals in the company saying we want to run transparent, we want to be fast, we want everyone to have a voice. And this is just an example that, we don't want to have kind of an elephant in the room blocking us from making progress as a team. All right, this is slightly random, but I'm going to talk a little bit about, just really quickly, about some ideas we have about product design. When we're designing web pages, one of the cool things we have in the company, actually I think I have, let me forward to this a minute. This is an old screen mock-up of Kayak with a heat map of how customers view Kayak. And the way we generate this is we actually have a computer monitor. I think it costs about $30,000 or $40,000. It has 3 cameras built in. And we bring in usability. We do usability studies in our office, and we bring people in to test the software. We have one room with this special computer monitor and computer, and then there'll be myself or usability engineer. And when we show the user this new version of the software, the 3 cameras on our screen will actually, we calibrate them to the user's eyes and where they're looking. And then in another room, so the user will be doing a live test looking at a new version of the Kayak. In a second room, we might have half a dozen engineers who are watching what the user is doing. And we will see projected up on a screen like this a heat map which is showing us where the user is looking at any one moment. We actually can see dots of where they're looking on the screen. We can see where their mouse is moving around and what they click on. And then we also generally have a video in the corner where you can see the customer's face and you can hear them talking as they're talking to the usability person. So it's been really useful for us to try to figure out what parts of Kayak people look at and use, and what parts of the website are irrelevant or annoying. And we try to, if there's a part of Kayak that people don't use, we try to remove that. So we're always trying to remove stuff from the page. I'm just going to go back to this other page here. So as I think about how people look at products, whether it's a mobile product or web product, I would say that these are the 5 things that they think that these are the ways in which they parse a page. So the first thing to look for is the bling, which is either something that's really attractive on the page or something that is what they asked for. So people don't come to Kayak to use Kayak. They don't care about Kayak. They come to Kayak because they need a flight. They need to get home or they need a hotel. So if they ask us a question about hotels in Chicago, they want to see the hotel. So that's something that they're going to be drawn to. The second thing is if you do a bad job and you can't give users what they want, the next thing I'm going to do is try to figure out how do I get out of here or how do I get what I want, because this page isn't showing me the bling or the thing I was looking for. So the next thing to look for is a button to click. And as one of my friends calls it the Fisher-Price point and pound UI, where you don't see what you want, click a button and get me out of here. The third thing to look for, if they don't see a button that gets them the result they don't think gets them the result they want, is to look for links in the page to escape. So, okay, maybe this link will take me to a page which is interesting. The fourth thing, if they don't see the item they want or a button or a link to get them where they want, they'll look for is there a box on the page I can type text into, maybe enter the command again. And then the fifth one is pretty much everything else on the page, which is the bullshit. And that's what, when we do these eye tracking studies, we try to figure out what parts of Kayak do people not look at, and then we try to remove those as much as we can. It's just a different type of heat map. All right, so that's actually all I have for slides, and I guess I just want to open it up to questions, particularly about starting entrepreneurship, first year, culture, teams, financing, any of that stuff. So, yep, over here.
What was the very, very original idea that resulted in Kayak?
So my co-founder, Steve Hafner, who is our CEO, Steve was one of the founders of Orbitz and ran biz dev and marketing for them. And he had seen in his years at Orbitz that even though they became a good online travel agency, or OTA, I think it was about 70% of the time at the end of 2003 when people would come to Orbitz, they'd do a search, find the flight they wanted, and then they'd open a separate window and go directly to the airline and buy it. And so Steve realized that people were no longer trusting the online agents themselves to necessarily get the best deals, and people learned that the hotels and the airlines themselves were actually developing pretty decent websites, and they often had deals that were not available on the OTAs. And so Steve's idea was really, if that's the way customers are behaving, why don't we just create a website which does what they want, which is we'll just do the search. We'll show every single hotel, not just if you look for a hotel, again, in New York, tonight, use Expedia. Expedia won't show you every hotel in New York. They're only going to show the hotels they sell. We'll show every hotel in New York. And so that was kind of our identity, to be like, how useful would Google be if it didn't actually search the whole web? And we thought, the same thing for travel. We wanted to have one site that found everything. Next question, yeah, right here.
Where did the name Kayak come about?
Yeah, our marketing people, so the question, where did the name Kayak come from? Our marketing people, sometimes if we ask them that question, they'll talk about giving users the ability to navigate the complicated waters and all that. That's not true at all. We, when we incorporated the company, we used a generic name. I think it was Travel Search Company, Inc., as a placeholder. And we knew that Steve and I, so Steve had helped create Orbitz, which is a very successful company. I'd done a few companies before Kayak. And for this one, we really wanted to shoot like really high and do something really big. And we wanted to create a brand. And for me, creating a brand was not picking a name like Travel Search Company or Travelocity or something that's literal, but we wanted to pick kind of an abstract word. And we probably spent, I think, about 2.5 months working with some outside branding agencies in New York to develop our original brand concept and positioning. And internally, our positioning was a little bit the anti-Expedia, because Expedia is the #1 travel company in the world, most popular. And we looked at their website. I thought it was bloated and slow, and we wanted to do something that was opposite from that. And not quite Craigslist, but kind of lean and mean and cut through. And once we came up with that idea and positioning internally, we then looked at a bunch of names that we thought we could bond onto that idea. I think Kayak was actually our #2 choice. We had 5 finalists from hundreds of names. And one of the interesting things when we chose Kayak is one of our investors, actually at General Catalyst, when we presented to the board that these are the final names, this is what we tested, and this is the one we want to choose, he actually said to us, that is the stupidest name for a travel company. People will think you're doing adventure travel. You'll name this company Kayak over my dead body. And being the good entrepreneurs that we are, we basically said, thanks for the input. Because to me, your investors, their job is not to run the company. Their job is to give you feedback, and as an entrepreneur, you should do what you want. And we chose a name. It was hard for the first year. It was very, very confusing. But if you pick an abstract name, and if you can get over the hump and get people to associate it, it works really, really well. Some of the brand names I liked was Amazon was a cool name. Lotus Software Company, I really liked that name. And so we wanted something that was abstract in some ways, not descriptive of the idea.
From your overview of the company, it sounds very much like you found a specific problem and then you just try to address it with technology. And as I learn more about tech and listen to many speakers, it seems to me that is kind of the missing element that makes most of the startups fail, that not finding a specific customer, but rather just going after some abstract idea. And with your experience, you said you had 4 other companies before that, and some of them successful, some not so much. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, sure. I think, to me, defining a specific problem and customer is really important. I think all of us could come up with ideas tonight about new companies we could create. I sometimes do exercises with students where I have a talk that I give called, I forget the name, it's like irritation to innovation, and how irritations in our life can actually lead to creating products and inventions. And I give certain assignments to the students before I'll show up and lecture, and sometimes I'll ask people to take a photo of something that annoys them on the day of my lecture, but to email it to me ahead of time, and then I'll show it, I'll display those photos and go through it with the group. And many times people can find something irritating that they get really pissed off and have a lot of angst about, and sometimes there are ideas that they want to pursue to turn into a company or a product, but they don't step back and say, well, does this idea bother just me, or does it bother other people too? If it bothers other people, how much does it bother them? Does it bother them enough that they're willing to change their habits to learn a new product? Does it bother them enough that they're going to pay money for that product? So I do think that's important. But I also, when you think about investor, and is it James spoke about an investor meeting that you guys had? Chris? Yeah, so when I think about When I have advised venture capitalists on investment, they call me in to look at companies for them. And I think about how I decide whether I think a company is going to be successful. I really look at three things. The first one is the team, and I would say that's actually 70% of my decision. And all I look for, are they really smart? Are they aggressive? Have they done anything successful before? Even if it's not the problem you're assigning them to. Are they ethical? Are they fun? Do I want to hang out with them? Can they recruit? Are they compelling? And if I find a team that meets all those criteria, I almost will just write a check and have to say, oh yeah, and tell me what it is you do. 20% for me is in what market do you participate? And so for us it was travel. And in the market, my questions are, is it large? Is it under change? Is it at all interesting to me? Do I have any conflicts? And if you have an amazing team and they're chasing a big market under change that I'm interested in, then that compels me as well. The third thing, and I'm exaggerating a little bit, is, oh yeah, and tell me what it is that you actually do. And I would say that's 10% of my decision. Now, it's a little bit more than that, but the reason I say it's only 10%, I think a lot of inventors or entrepreneurs fall in love with their products, and they don't pay enough attention and enough energy to ramping up the team, making the team just a little bit stronger. Or they chase a market that is really, really small. So to me, I would say team first, market, which is similar to problem, that there's a number of people who are the problem you're attacking, and then what's your approach? And your approach can change as long as the team is really strong and smart and understands that large market. So I don't know if that answered it. Yeah, right here.
How big of a struggle, that being said, how big of a struggle was kind of acquiring talent, making sure they stay? I'm sure you guys had some rough days at the very beginning.
Yeah, so the question was, how tough was it to attract that talent? I think with each company, it's gotten a little bit easier for me. For Kayak, we're 9 years old now. Again, about 180 people on staff right now. But we probably, I feel bad talking about firing people, but it's, I really believe to be a really great entrepreneur, you have to fire people too. Because if you have people on your team that are annoying, you don't want them to bother the people who are really good. So we've fired a lot of people over the last 9 years. And we generally, when we hire people at Kayak, we say we're an entrepreneurial company. We hire entrepreneurs. Don't take this job unless you're willing to take risks, because if the chemistry doesn't work right and it's not fast enough and fun enough, we're going to separate. But as far as ignoring for a moment the people who left Kayak because they were asked to leave, I would say in 9 years, I've lost 2 people that bothered me. So we have a really good track record that if someone is doing well and producing and they're fun, which is the other half of it, they tend to stay. We definitely have had dark days during our first 2 years. I remember before our board meeting one time, my co-founder and I at a bar in Harvard Square getting ready for the board meeting, before the meeting, probably not a good idea to be drinking before the meeting, but we were going over the plan, and basically him saying to me, I don't think we can make this work. We just can't find a way to buy enough customers to the website to make enough money to buy customers to the website. And I remember at that time, I like having 2 co-founders because generally you're not both pessimistic on the same day. And when one is down, the other one can try to figure out an angle. And to me, at that time, I actually didn't have fear. And maybe I was naive, but I basically said, look, it's a huge market. It travels 8% of the U.S. GDP. It's 40% of all e-commerce. It's larger than the next 4 categories combined. You add up all of iTunes and music, all of books, all of electronics, all of clothing, I think it's number 4, and travel's bigger. And I said, I know we have a killer team. I know we're in a big market. I don't know what we're going to do, but we'll find a way. And so to me, I think having just incredibly strong conviction that if you're attacking a problem a lot of people have, and you have a good team, I think you can compel those people to say, we'll figure out a way. So that, at least that's worked for us. Yeah, in the back.
Here, let's take one over here with the microphone.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Thanks. First of all, congratulations for the acquisition.
Thank you.
I personally believe that I shouldn't be spending any money for marketing, especially in the early stage. So what strategies did you use when you began with Kayak? And what was your acquisition cost for customers?
Yeah, so right now, if anyone didn't hear the questions about customer acquisition and marketing, what do we do in the first year or 2? Right now, about 70% of our traffic is self-directed, where people just come directly to kayak.com. They don't come to us through SEO, search engine optimization, or they don't come to us through an ad that they click. That's a really, really good number. It means that there's some loyalty, and they remember the site, or their friend told them about it, which means that it's a very efficient way for us to get customers. The first year, our strategy was, because we didn't have that much money, it was try to do some PR, and I'll tell you about the first PR stunt that we did. Try to do some biz dev partnerships where we align with a bigger company, which is really well known. So 2004, AOL was still a relevant company, and they were a pretty powerful company in 2004, and we won their business to basically provide travel search for all of AOL, and that got us a huge amount of attention. And we struck the deal in such a way that when you went on AOL and search for travel, there'd be a kayak brand there that people would get used to. So I think we did PR, we did some biz dev to get more and more attention and put our brand out there a little bit. And then we experimented with some SEM, so buying keywords, which was incredibly not profitable for us the first year or so, because we would buy someone to kayak, and let's say we paid an average of 25 cents to buy someone to come to kayak, but we would lose money on them during that trip, and then they wouldn't come back. And what happens now at kayak is we'll pay a certain amount to get someone to come to the website, and we'll lose money on that transaction, but they'll come back because they like the experience. And the second time, they're free. So the first time we paid to get them there. And I would say the biggest thing that allowed us to turn the corner and become profitable, which took us maybe 2.5 years, was just completely refine the product, always be tweaking it, and try to make it such that the user felt comfortable with it, it was fast enough, and they weren't confused by it, so that it made it easy for them to come back. So perfecting the product.
I'm just wondering, how long did it take since you have a first business plan to actually start up the website? Like, how long did it take for the website to be fully functional?
Yep. So I've been in software for a long time, and the key thing, you'll hear recurring themes. I'm talking about team all the time. The key thing that I brought to the company on day one, when Steve and I met and decided to co-found this, was I immediately hired the 5 best engineers I'd ever worked with. And we were incorporated. I met Steve at the very end of December 2003. We incorporated in, if I remember correctly, January 18-ish, late January in 2004. And we just arbitrarily set a milestone that we wanted to launch a product by Cinco de Mayo of 2004. So the engineers, let's say, started beginning of February, which was really quick because we incorporate, raise money, find these guys, get them to quit their jobs, give them 2 weeks' notice, and start. And some of them actually started working before they gave notice, and they give notice, but then started working immediately. So I would say February, March, April, May. So it's pretty quick. The Cinco de Mayo release was fully functional from you could ask, it was flights only, you could ask for a flight, we would search multiple websites, show you the result, you could click on a result, go to that website, but I would say none of that code exists anymore because we built it to build something really quickly so we could get customer feedback. So I would say we probably threw out all of that code, but we really wanted to get customer feedback.
What is your current cost per customer? Over here.
Who's talking to me?
What is your current cost per customer, and at what point starting Kayak did you get funding, external funding?
So I'm not sure we actually release. I have to be careful, like as a public company, what I'm allowed to say, not say. I'm not sure we're allowed to. I should know if I can answer this question, but I'm not sure I can answer that. But it's, in general, travel companies buy customers online for somewhere between 25 cents to $1, and there are some customers you'll buy for much more than that. Like if someone goes to Google and they type luxury hotel Chicago, that keyword is worth a lot because that's a user who's probably going to pay, $500, $600 a night for room, and you're willing to, spend a lot to buy them. As far as when we raised money, it's kind of a funny story. Our money raised, we raised 4 rounds before we went public. We were profitable after our second round, but the first round, to just demonstrate how reckless my co-founder and I are, and I think recklessness is a really good attribute for an entrepreneur. I had sold my last company, took some time off, and then I got a job as an EIR at Greylock, who was one of the great VC firms, so entrepreneur in residence. And I was working there for a few months, and then a friend of mine who worked at General Catalyst in Harvard Square asked me to come look at a company for them. So I was over at GC, looking at a mobile software company. And as I was leaving, Joel Cutler, one of the partners at GC, saw me and said, "What are you doing here today?" I said, "I'm looking at a company." He said, "Oh, there's this guy Steve, one of the Orbitz guys that Joel and Steve have been talking about travel search, and they wanted to start a company. They're looking for a CTO." And I said, "Sure, I'm happy to talk to him." And Steve and I went downstairs to Legal Seafoods in the square and talked over the period of an hour. And basically, he pitched me the idea. I gave him feedback. We talked a little bit about products. And, yeah, I mean, to make a long story short, within an hour, we basically agreed, having just met each other, having never heard of each other, to co-found the company. And when we went back upstairs, Steve basically said to Joel, "Okay, the good news is Paul and I are going to be 50-50 co-founders, and we're each putting $1 million in. We each had made some money before. The bad news is I'm tearing up that term sheet that I had with you," because Steve and Joel had talked about investment terms for GC, and Steve basically said, "Well, now that I have a co-founder, we're worth more." And so we jacked up our valuation slightly, but it was literally the first day. And I think Steve and I wrote checks. We opened up a bank account, and we funded it ourselves immediately, and then GC came in, days later or a week later. But it was a Series A by Steve, myself, General Catalyst, and actually 2 of the programmers invested as well, which has turned out to be a really good decision by them because they bought stock really cheap.
In regards to tech startups, how good do you think an idea has to be before you release it to the market?
I don't think it has to be that good. If it's a software product, I don't think it has to be that good because the nice thing about software these days is it's really easy to make rapid changes. To me, it's much more important to get something in front of a customer so that you can get real feedback before you get too fixated. The problem with delaying a product is the more it's in the lab and you keep thinking about it, you fall in love with your ideas, and you love your ideas so much, it's like you get this group thing going on, that by the time you put it in front of a customer and they reject it, you don't hear them. I was advising a guy recently who had an iPhone app that solved a particular problem that he had in his life, and it seemed like it was a common problem as a scheduling-related app. And he gave me the pitch, and I said, "I just don't find it compelling. I would never use it, and my guess is not a lot of people would buy this product." But he had been working on it for a year, full-time. Or not, I guess he had a job, and he probably had 2 jobs, working on this full-time, and a couple people working with him. And we were at Paparazzi in Concord for lunch, and we were arguing about whether this is useful or not. So I called over the waitress and said, "Hey, can you tell me if you've ever had this problem? We're trying to schedule a meeting with friends and blah, 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 blah." And she said, "No, I've never had that problem." So I turned to him and I said, "Okay, my sample set of 1, you 0% will have that problem." So he then argued with her for about 10 minutes to try to convince her she had that problem. And to me, I'm like, dude, you are so in love with your technology that you can't even hear it when a customer is telling you that it's a dumb idea or they don't resonate with it. So I really, really believe in throw something together really quickly and get it in front of a customer to see if it hunts or not. Now, there are times when your customer will tell you something is stupid and you should do it anyway, but you should at least hear the input. Yep, right here.
Here, hang on. Turn the mic.
If I remember correctly, you guys did have a couple of competitors like 5-6 years ago. I think Sidestep comes to mind.
Yep.
How did you guys, what strategy did you use to really increase your scope and kind of be the #1 player in your market right now?
Yeah, it's interesting. When we incorporated the company, we had a code name for the company called Runway 9, and I don't even remember how I came up with that. And we didn't want to tell them what we did, and we had these like stealthy business cards and all that. And we wanted to not tell them what we did until we were ready to launch the product. And then one day I read, or someone showed me an article in Business Week. I don't read Business Week. I shouldn't say that if this is going to be online. I guess I just did an interview with Business Week. But someone sent me an article in Business Week with a company in California called Mobissimo. And have any of you guys heard of them? Anyone know them? It's a pretty decent, travel search, international. And they were written out of Business Week as being the Google of travel. And it pissed me off because I said, okay, they were around before us, maybe a year before us, and they had a product which is out and working where we didn't. But the whole stealth strategy, basically I said, screw this, we need to go out and immediately do some PR. So the first thing we did is we had been aggressive, not just with recruiting who was on our team for developers and sales and marketing, but we were also pretty aggressive with recruiting a board. And so Steve was one of the founders of Orbitz. Our chairman, Terry Jones, was the original founder of Travelocity. And then one of our other directors, Greg Slingstad, was the original founder of Expedia. So we had these amazing guys who helped create this industry that we were trying to disrupt. And literally when I read that, I should tell Beatrice, the woman who runs Mobissimo, this story sometime. But literally when I read that, I got pissed off and said, we have to figure out something to do. And we put out this press release called, the Dream Team of Travel announces this new search engine. For Sidestep, which is another competitor, they were out a couple years before us. Their strategy was a little bit different than ours, and they were doing well. In 2006, they looked at acquiring us, and we actually, probably once or twice a year, people would try to acquire us, even when we were tiny. But we weren't interested, and then we bought them a year later, and we bought them in December of 2007. It was a really fun time. We had 39 employees, and we raised $200 million on a 600 pre. So with 39 employees, we got an $800 million valuation, and we acquired them. We probably paid too much, but we didn't dilute that much. We had 39 employees. They had 130, and we actually laid off probably 120 of their employees immediately, because when we knew we were going to get the deal done, I basically gave my engineers 1 month to clone Sidestep. So we had a version of Kayak that when you went to, it looked just like Sidestep. And when we closed the deal, we basically shut down their data center. We took DNS over, redirected Sidestep to this special version of Kayak, and we just launched it immediately. And everything we do is focused on kind of aggression and speed, and it's okay if we make mistakes. We just got to go really, really fast. And I think that focus on speed and tuning, like just perfecting it, it was probably the key thing that allowed us to just keep making our product be received a little bit better than the competitors. I actually, one of my many weaknesses as an entrepreneur is I actually never look at my competitors, which is really, I'm sure that's really bad. Luckily, there are people at Kayak who do look at competitors. I also, although we have a really kind of all-star team on our board that we put together on day one for travel, on the tech side, I didn't ever want to hire anyone that ever worked in travel. I have this thing where I think that creative people are at their peak when they're looking at a problem for the first time. So I remember we were probably 9 months old, and I was presenting product plans to the board, and Terry Jones, our chairman, he said to me when I presented some plan of what I wanted to do with hotels, whatever, he said, Paul, you're a nice guy and you seem really smart, but that is the stupidest plan. We tried that at Travelocity 10 years ago. Expedia tried it 5 years ago. That's not going to work. Can you please humor me and just hire someone that works in travel? Your engineers seem really bright, but just hire one guy. And I remember saying, Terry, I'll hire someone that's working in travel if I can find someone smart that's working in travel, but I've just never found anyone, kind of being sarcastic towards him. So, I'm just very focused on finding really, really bright people, throw them at the problem, and try to innovate on it quickly. Back here? Okay. Sure, yeah, sorry.
As a CTO, how much day-to-day interaction or control do you have over your engineers? Do you try and take a more hands-off approach?
That's awesome.
Or do you micromanage a bit too much sometimes?
Yes, it's funny. If anything about this session gets blogged or tweeted, I want it to be your question, which is how much control do you have over your engineers? That's like the best question ever. The answer is probably 0. I think the engineers like me, and many of them have been with me 4 companies in a row. So I've been with a lot of guys for a long time, and people generally don't quit when they come to Kayak, so they like working there. I think they like interacting with me on product strategy and design ideas and team, speed and all that stuff. But when it comes down to fighting about a particular feature, they never let me pick the date. And I don't actually pick the date. Like, we'll fight about a feature and we'll argue and, I want this. And then when we're done arguing, we leave, and then they decide when to do it. And sometimes they'll do something different than me and release it. I don't know. So I'm literally using Kayak, and occasionally I'll see a feature or a change that I hadn't seen before. And I do like running the company that way, a bit of an anarchy. It only works if you have extraordinary people. But if you have really, really good people and you treat each one of them like they're a CTO or a CEO, they care about the company, they care about the team, and you want to let them try stuff. And I think that, again, with a really creative team, I like running companies that way. So we have, at a very high level, when you think about sequencing a company, like how often do you change code, are people in sync, do you have enough meetings and all that, I think that at the core, the most important thing about a company is that the founding team, either the founder or founders or original people, have to state like who they are as a team. And when you state who you are and what's important to you, it shouldn't be what you learned in business school or what your mom or your investor. You should talk about what you actually care about and just complete transparency and honesty, saying this is who we are and we want to build a company around these values. And if you're honest about who you actually are, that becomes a foundation that shouldn't change, in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever. So that's kind of like the long-term thing. We then have views of the industry, which, like Steve and I have strong opinions on what's going to happen in travel in the next 5 years. Will Apple have a travel product? Can you buy travel on your iPhone? So we have strong opinions about that. And we're sometimes wrong, but those are opinions that we see where the industry's going. As far as our own product, we have a 1-year financial plan we commit to the board. So all the employees know what we're looking for revenue and profit. Our product plans, I like to say that we have a 90-day plan for product. Realistically, it's probably a 3-week plan, and it changes all the time, and it seems manic. And when we hire engineers who work at other companies, they're a little bewildered by there's not a lot of structure, there's not a lot of meetings, there's not a lot of long-term plans. I don't think we have a single product specification document that's 5 pages long or more. We go immediately to whiteboard and Photoshop to code. So it's a little bizarre, but it works really well if you have good creative people.
Hi, sir.
Okay.
What is your next step plan? And if you are doing another startup right now, what market would you like to head into?
Yeah, so to answer that question, as far as what my next step is, it's keep making kayak better. I'm really excited about this Priceline deal. So we announced the deal last week that both boards approved it, but now it'll take a few months to close the deal. When this deal is closed, my plan is to stay on and keep driving this and building the kayak brand. I really like Priceline Group as a company. I can say more about that in a minute, but if you were to say if I were to get fired from kayak or if I leave kayak at some point, what would I do next? The thing that I have been thinking about is I like travel. I had mentioned to you guys before that it's 8% of the U.S. GDP, 40% of e-commerce, huge, huge industry. The only thing bigger than travel is healthcare. So it's about twice the size. So if I tried to think about starting another company that could be bigger than kayak, it'd be rip apart healthcare, and it'd be fun. I met Atul Gawande. I don't know if any of you guys know him. He's an amazing writer and surgeon here in Boston. I met him at a Partners in Health event a couple nights ago, and I was telling him some ideas about what someone should do in travel, and he looked at me and said, I've met 100 guys who look just like you and who made money in tech and want to work in healthcare, and they're just like carcasses along the road. It's too complicated. And I was like, man, I love problems like that. So someday, I'll probably advise or help a company get started that goes into healthcare because it's fucked up, and we spend too much money, and someone needs to find a way to make things more transparent, more efficient. The transparency is awful. Like if you're trying to find a primary care physician in Boston, how do you know who's a good physician? How do you know if you have someone in your family who's really, really sick? How do you figure out which oncologist, if they have cancer, let's say, what's the mortality rate of patients for this oncologist versus that one? There's a lot of information that's just lacking and hidden in the system, and someone needs to rip that up. So that'd be fun.
All right, and with that, we're at our time limit at 7 o'clock. So are you going to be hanging around a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
Afterwards?
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, let's give Paul a big round of applause.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. That was
sure.
absolutely fantastic. And then, as a final announcement, again, we'll be here next week, 6 to 7 p.m., hanging out. There's throughout the semester, I'm sure you've seen some of us come up and make announcements. There's a board on the E-Club of about 25 members, and we'd all love to meet you and chat and really hang out. So come join us there, and there's our contact info. Thanks, everyone.